stranger broke into children's bedroom on Peaceful Street. Then their military vet dad came running with gun. A young family's peaceful night's sleep in a quiet Georgia suburb was disturbed in the most nightmarish way until a quick-thinking father sprang into action. Justin Couch, 38, and his wife Allison faced every parent's nightmare when a deranged man broke into their children's bedroom in Jackson, Georgia at 11:30 p.m. Monday. The couple and their 3 children were asleep when their 15-year-old son was awoken by the sound of his window shattering. He then ran to his parents' room to warn them, waking his dad. "I've got to protect my kids. That's all that I had in mind," Couch explained. "In that moment, I was terrified. I'm going to be honest with you." The suspect, identified by police as Abdil Akil, had allegedly smashed his teen's window and began threatening to murder the family inside. Couch grabbed his gun and opened fire as his children looked on. The bullet did not strike the suspect, but it was enough to send him flying back through a window he was trying to crawl through. But the ordeal did not end there, and the intruder then jumped back up and started stalking off down the street. This is the family right here. And this is the guy here that was trying to break into their home. It took multiple taser wielding to subdue this guy and to place him under arrest, Butts County Sheriff Gray Long said. Couch recalled the terrifying moment he knew his family's lives was at stake. "He starts yelling at me, telling me he's going to kill me and I'm going to beat your ass. And then he took off and started lunging towards my front door," Couch said. "I came around and he pushed my window so hard and with so much force that the entire casing of the window blew in and it flew about 5 feet all the way down the basement stairs. All the while, Couch's 10-year-old daughter was on his hip and his 15-year-old son was by his side. His wife had run to find their oldest son. The whole time they are beside me and I'm pointing my gun," Couch said. He stepped back and then his hands went up and he shouted, "Come on, MFer." He then he was about three-quarter in the house and he was shouting, "I'm going to kill you." So I shot him one time. With his adrenaline pumping, Couch managed to keep his calm even after seeing the suspect flee down the street. "I was just thinking, I've got to protect my kids. I don't want to kill someone in front of my kids," Couch added. "I've always been that person that said if anyone ever came in my house, I'll shoot them and I'll kill them. But it's a little different in the moment when you've got your kids watching. I just wanted him out of the house." And if you didn't catch this story here, I'll just refresh you. This story and the one I just read, they just took place within a week. Like within the last 7 days, these 2 stories came up. And there's plenty others, but we're just going to start off with this one, with these 2 here. This is a guy by the name of Deshaun Dante Leith. And he basically, as you can see in this post, he's being portrayed as he was a force in his community, a father to a beautiful daughter, and a tender homie I met organizing. His life was stolen by the police. If able, donate, please, and boost widely. And this is him right here. And of course, they show all the nice pictures of him. But there's a little bit more, unfortunately, than to the story. And this is a snapshot of him basically attacking an officer after the officer stopped because he, Deshaun, had gotten into an accident, and the officers doing his job pulled over to see what was going on. Deshaun decides to jump out of the car and proceeds to attack the officer. We're going to play the video and we'll come right back.
I'll be out. Then it's a white male, blue shirt, gray pants. Yes, sir.
This man here is going to get hit. He flipped his car here a minute ago.
All right, I'll get him. Disregard, that was a truck driver. I think it's a black male with a pink shirt. Come on, buddy.
Step away.
Come on,
devil. Big step away. Big step away. You a devil.
What's going on, man? What's going
on?
on?
In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus, watch out. In the name of Jesus, watch out. Watch out.
Get hurt.
You're going to get hurt. In the name of Jesus, stop, bitch.
Hey,
Jesus, Lord, bow down.
Get hurt.
Jesus, Lord, bow down. Don't touch me or you're going to die. Next time you touch me, you're going to die. Next time you touch me, you're going to die.
Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. 5, Team Cleveland. Send me another unit. He's on foot, going down the berm. Hey, you gotta go down.
You ain't that's Jesus, bitch. That's Jesus, bitch. Bitch. That's Jesus.
Yes.
Oh.
Get down on the ground.
Jesus. 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 Okay, let's see. Come on. All right, here we go. Let's try to find Jesus. Go ahead. Listen.
Get down on the ground now.
Lay down. Lay down. I'm stronger than you. I'm a Jesus Lord. I'm a Jesus Lord. I'm a Jesus. All my Jesus Lord is behind me. Listen, we playing with you now. So listen. Hey, bro. Hey, get him. Let him have that shit, dog. Hey, dog, let him have that shit, bro. You got dog. You stop it. Come on, bro. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him shoot you, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Real shit, my nigga. Real shit, dog. Please don't shoot him off. I got him. Come on, bro. Come on, man. Come on, dog. I don't want to see him, bro. Come on, dog. Please, bro. Please, bro. Please, dog. Come on, bro. And then you start the car, go. You took the patrol car, went into Pennsylvania. I'm okay, I was
So if you take the time and read the rest of the story, he proceeded to lead police in a 3-state chase in a police vehicle. And then later on in the video, it's about 18 minutes in total. I'm not going to play the whole thing. He ended up totaling the police vehicle, and then the police officers were trying to get him out of this totaled vehicle. And what he does is basically starts trying to fight them again, which ultimately they had to make the decision that he had to be put down. And so now that you have that perspective, go back to that original post that I showed you, that he was some community leader and that they stole his life. There was another thing in this article that I linked to, and let me pull this up for you right quick here. Okay, so in the article itself, it gives us a little bit more background of this young man. It says, according to police, Leith was from Michigan, and prison records show he pleaded guilty to nine home invasion charges across 2 cases that date back to 2012. And he says when he got in 2023, he became the executive director of a nonprofit focused on helping at-risk kids and preventing teen violence. Now I'm getting ready to show you another video, but first I just wanted to start the video with those 2 stories here. This video that you're about to watch is one that is going to be probably one of the most hardest, one of the most challenging ones that I think I've made on this platform. And the reason why I say it's probably one of the challenging ones, because it's not because of me, it's because I know that there are many people out here who have never been honest enough to look at the mirror when it comes to this kind of stuff. And in this video, I'm going to go through many clips of different stories that have happened over the past few years that involve black folks, doing things like this. And a lot of times when I even mention a few of these stories, typically the response is you're tearing down black folks. But I strongly beg to differ on that, because it's not me tearing down anything. It's these individuals tearing down themselves and the community that they live in. And so we're going to section this off into different sections so that we can follow along here. And but this is really something that really, it can't be discussed enough. And this is something where I'm saying, enough is enough. We're going to have to the people really need to see this, and they're going to need to sit down and really take an honest look at all of this. And, like we normally do on this platform, we're not going to just talk about the problems. We're going to also talk about the solution. What are the solutions to this? And believe it or not, the solutions, they can be challenging, but they're not difficult. And you don't need to go to a 3-day seminar to get these solutions that I'm going to share with you. But it is going to require something of substantial of you, some real decisions that you're going to have to make. And some of these decisions are going to be contrary to what a lot of people are out there saying. So, we're going to wrap up this video talking about the solutions as well. So we're not just talking about the problems or pointing these out, but we're also looking at the solution. Now, before we get started in looking at these tons of video clips that I have for you and news clips, there is one more story that I do want to share with you. This was on the Black Girl Unlost channel. I'm not going to play the whole video, but I do want to play a clip of it. And let's take a quick look at this video.
You'll be a part of their team. Lastly, she stated, I'll be the new Jeffrey Dahmer. I thought he was cool. It was heartbreakingly clear that Brittany was spiraling, with dangerous and possibly delusional thoughts consuming her mind. Little did anyone know, things were about to take a dark and sinister turn, one that no one could have anticipated. What followed would leave those who knew and loved them stunned, heartbroken, and searching for answers in the aftermath of an unthinkable tragedy. Just after 5 in the evening on March 31st, Rockdale police responded to a 911 call reporting a deceased woman inside a residence on the 600 block of Rice Street near East Belton Avenue. When officers arrived at the scene and entered the home, they discovered an unresponsive adult female lying inside, marking the beginning of a disturbing and heartbreaking investigation. The victim was identified as 58-year-old Stephanie McBride, who was tragically pronounced dead at the scene after succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds, just weeks shy of celebrating her 59th birthday. Stephanie wasn't just a mother, but a beloved figure in her community, someone known for her warmth, generosity, and unwavering love for her family. Her sudden and violent death sent shockwaves through the town of Rockdale, where she had long been considered a pillar of strength and compassion. As investigators processed the scene, they quickly gathered enough evidence to secure an arrest warrant for Stephanie's own daughter, 39-year-old Brittany Deshae Shields. Authorities describe Brittany as the lone actor in what has now been deemed a heartbreaking act of familial violence. With help from Stephanie's concerned relatives, the Texas Department of Public Safety Criminal Investigations Division, Texas Highway Patrol, and the Austin Police Department, Brittany was located at her residence in Austin and taken into custody without incident. Just a day prior, on March 30th, an Amber Alert had been issued for Brittany's 2 young children. Thankfully, the children were found unharmed and in Brittany's care at the time of her arrest. The alert was soon canceled after their safe recovery, as the McBride family and the Rockdale community mourn a woman described as the glue that held everyone together. The question remains, how could something like this happen, especially to someone like Stephanie? What could have possibly triggered a daughter to take the life of her own mother? Was there long-standing tension between them that eventually erupted? Did Brittany's mental health spiral out of control until it reached a breaking point? Were there red flags that had been overlooked? Her former military service has also raised questions about whether unaddressed post-traumatic stress disorder or trauma may have contributed to her mental decline.
Now, more often than not, anytime stories like this, like the last 3 that I just highlighted at the beginning of this video, typically what people will do is automatically pivot to that there's some severe mental illness that's at play. And I'm looking at these videos and I don't question it at all. I mean, there's clearly was something that was going on. But the reason why I'm doing this video is because we do have that is an issue within what we call the Black community. And it is something that desperately needs to be addressed. Make no mistake about it. We talk about this literally all the time. Anytime we on this platform, we try to address this issue of the importance of, healing your mind and getting professional help. Well, I mean, more often than not, people they're not interested at all. In fact, this last story that I just highlighted, there was her former boyfriend. If you watch the rest of that video, her former boyfriend posted on social media, just kind of giving some words or whatever, because, that was part of his life. This woman who made this horrible decision to unalive her mom. He was just sharing about how, he was glad that he got out of that relationship because he could see how she was just there was something clearly going on. He was just saying how the slightest stuff would just set her off. He said it was very difficult to live with her, to be around her at times. And he said it just got to the point where I just said, enough, I can't do this anymore. And he said, I'm just so glad that I made the choice to part ways in that relationship. Well, and when you listen to what he wrote, he was actually cracking the door open to what I believe is a healthy discussion on mental illness, and something that really needs to be not just explored, but actually dealt with. And if you continue to watch that video, what actually happened was he was attacked. He was attacked by different ones who was telling him basically to shut up and stay out of this and so forth and so on. So here you have a person that's really trying to open up and saying, hey, listen, let's talk about this. And instead of people just going along with that and hopefully bringing some type of healing in a very tragic situation, he's being told to sit down and basically shut up. But this is something that if you talk to people who specialize in mental health and, and treating people on that, they will tell you all the time, it's a very difficult discussion to have. And most people will just run from it, especially the people who need it the most. But I will tell you, it's not just mental health. In other words, it's not just simply you were born, like old folks used to say, you were born special, or you got some mental, your mind is broken or whatever. It's not as simple as some type of birth defect, because I think a lot of times that gets heaved onto on that pile. But there's a lot of other factors as well. And many of those factors stem at the home. It starts at the home life. It also speaks largely of the culture. Later on, we're going to talk about the difference between, when we talk about Black culture, we're going to talk about Black culture versus Black history, and how both of them are mutually exclusive to one another, and why you need to separate yourself from one. Okay. And so we're going to get into that in a moment, but it's not just simply like I had somebody try to suggest that maybe it's the Freemasons, or, then, the religious folks will say, okay, maybe it's demons or whatever. And we'll try to bring in any other alternative explanation as a way to distract us from getting into the nuts and bolts and actually addressing the thing as is and what it really is. Nobody really wants to get their hand dirty to actually look at this stuff as is. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually highlight a bunch of stories here. We're going to start off, like I said earlier, we're going to do it kind of in sections here. This first section that I'm going to highlight are stories that predominantly have impacted mostly white children. In fact, I think all of them were white children. Now, I'm starting off here in light of the environment that we're in right now, where a lot of people are set off by what took place down in Texas, and where you had this two young men got into it, and then it resulted in this young man basically dying with a knife in his chest. and the one that did the knifing was a black individual. And you have what we call the black community rallying behind this young black boy and just assuming that this was just self-defense. And even though no police report has been reported or any released or anything like that, people are just rallying behind this individual who, based on the facts that we do know, it clearly looks like there was just a case of him just, being set off and just making a very bad decision to end somebody's life. And so I want to continue on that, but because this was a topic, honestly, that particular topic, that story, I didn't want to keep doing videos on that. Instead I wanted to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it in a more constructive way. And so what we're going to do is actually do just that. So first thing I want to do is I want to look at these stories that have taken place over the past from now to going back maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years of stories that, well, you're just going to have to hear it for yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at these stories. Former Food Network star found guilty of murdering the daughter she was in the process of adopting. This story took place back in 2022. Ariel Robinson's foster child, Victoria Torrey Smith, was just days away from being officially adopted by the reality contestant and her husband when the 3-year-old died from blunt force trauma. Nelson denies involvement in 12-year-old's disappearance and death, and this was going back to 2013. The woman accused of abducting and murdering a 12-year-old Jonathan Foster told investigators in a videotape interrogation that she did not know she was dumping the boy's charred body into a culvert, but said she smelled something sweet while unloading a trash can from the back of her pickup. Man burned groin of girlfriend's toddler before beating him to death, then stuffed him in a bag and hid body under makeshift table in basement. A 24-year-old Pennsylvania man has been arrested for allegedly killing his girlfriend's 2-year-old son, burning the toddler's groin, and beating him to death before stuffing his body in a canvas air mattress bag that he hid in the basement of his home. And the young boy that died, it was a young white boy. Caretaker charged in the death of an 8-month-old girl. An 8-month-old girl died Tuesday after being assaulted by a caretaker at a southeast Baltimore daycare facility, Baltimore police said. Leah Walden, 23, was arrested and is charged with first and second degree murder, first and second degree assault, first and second degree child abuse, and reckless endangerment. Police say officers were called at 3:19 p.m. Tuesday to the Rocket Tears Learning Center in the unit block of South High Street on a report of a baby not breathing. Medics were already on the scene performing CPR on the girl, later identified as Reese Bowman, police says. The child was taken to a hospital where she was declared dead, police said. And again, all these stories are children, white children that were murdered by black folks. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Woman accused of burning 6-month-old baby to death. In Louisiana, authorities said a 25-year-old woman is accused of burning a 6-month-old baby to death. The state fire marshal's official office said in a news release Monday that Felicia Marie Nicole Smith was arrested Saturday on a charge of first-degree murder in the death Tuesday of Levi Cole Ellerby. The burned baby was found more than an hour after the mother reported him kidnapped Tuesday night. The mother told the police 2 strangers banged on her door and sprayed her with a chemical. Police say she ran away and came back to find that her son was gone. He was found after a woman reported a fire near some railroad tracks. He died in a hospital. And this is the individual that did it. Man accused of murdering Dallas 4-year-old Cash Jernon found incompetent to stand trial. The man accused of kidnapping a young boy from his bed and murdering him may be deemed incompetent to stand trial. Police says Darian Brown killed 4-year-old Cash Jernon in southwest Dallas last year. Now a psychologist and psychiatrist have found Brown incompetent. And so they They said investigators said Brown was the man seen on home surveillance video taking Jernon from the bedroom where he was sleeping. Jernon was in the care of a woman who lived in a home off of Satteridge Drive, Dallas. She knew Brown. Jernon's body was found next morning by a jogger 8 blocks away from the home of the neighborhood street. Investigators said the boy was stabbed to death. Bail set at $5 million for a woman accused of fatally stabbing a 3-year-old outside an Ohio supermarket. And this is in Cleveland. Bail was set to $5 million Monday for a woman who authorities said fatally stabbed a 3-year-old boy last week as he sat in a grocery cart outside an Ohio supermarket and wounded the mother. And this is her right here. And the boy was white.
We're just playing in the yard like any other day.
Cannon had gone to church Sunday morning with his dad and sisters.
Everybody there just loved Cannon.
And Cannon just loved riding his bike as he was doing Sunday evening in his dad's front yard on Archers Road. His 2 sisters there with him. His dad, Austin Hennett, was inside when he heard the gunshot.
I just scooped him up in my arms and held him. And I screamed, and somebody help me please help me save my son. God, save my son, please.
Hennett looked up and saw his neighbor in the yard next door, gun in hand, pacing frantically.
I was looking at him as I was picking up Cannon, and I was so full of rage, but I couldn't leave my son's side. I just wanted to be with my son.
Hennett's fiance called 911. He says his neighbor, 25-year-old Darius Sessoms, who lived with his parents, soon drove away. Police arrested Sessoms the next day, charging him with murder. Can you explain why he would shoot your 5-year-old boy?
I have no idea why he would kill my son in front of his 2 sisters, his cousins. No idea.
Just the night before, Hennett says he had Sessoms over for supper. They sat on the porch, drank a beer together.
Because there was never anything between me and him, any bad blood whatsoever, for him to have a reason to do this.
But those last moments with Cannon, unimaginable.
I can't imagine what it's like to hold your son while he's suffering from a gunshot wound to the head, as his blood run down my arm.
So here you had a story where here this white man invited this black man over to have a beer, sit down and chill out one night. The next night, the black guy is getting a shotgun and basically killing his son. And this happens, these kind of stories, they literally go on and on and on and on. You ever ask yourself, why is it that we don't hear other black bloggers talking about these stories? Why is it that these never come up? I'm talking about, you can name them. Why is it that they never bring these stories up at all? The only ones we hear about is when it's the other way around. Now, here's some other stories that are very similar to the story that everybody's attracted to today, you know, and what we've been talking about, the situation down in Texas. Again, some of these stories are very recent, but again, we don't really hear anything about them. I wonder why. Let's take a look at these stories.
Thank you. Adding frustration to their grief, the family of John the Watermelon Man Materna says they were blindsided when the 16-year-old suspect charged with his murder walked out of jail.
So Friday, Shelby County Criminal Court Judge Jennifer Mitchell granted bond to a young man named Demarion Tackett. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas joins us now. She's spoken with the victim's family, who says they've been blindsided, just left in the dark.
Well, Joe and Joyce, the Materna family tells me not only is it frustrating, but terrifying to have found out that their loved one's accused killer was released on bond.
We found out about the bond hearing just like everyone else through social media.
Frustrated by Friday's news, John Materna's children and widow react to the release of Demarion Tackett, the teen charged with shooting and killing the beloved fruit vendor in May of 2023.
It's just ridiculous. My husband would have done anything in the world for this boy. He would have given the money out of his pocket. He didn't have to shoot him.
The Materna family says through the entire court process, they feel the Shelby County District Attorney's Office has left them out the loop on decisions, court updates, and bail hearings.
I just don't want him to hurt anybody else. You know, because if he's done this many times, what's he going to do now that he's out?
Action News 5 spoke with Tackett's attorney Monday, who told us there was never a bond hearing. Instead, after the defense and prosecutors agreed that the source of Tackett's $100,000 bond money was legal, Judge Mitchell held off for several weeks before granting conditional bail.
That gave me a couple weeks to go out and get him in the GVIP program, and his mom has to, once he's out, his mom's going to enroll him in alternative school.
Tackett's attorney Brandon Hall says Judge Mitchell made the decision to deny the prosecution's request to increase or revoke bail because it was untimely.
They waited until they saw that Mr. Tackett was capable of posting the bail and then said, oh, this bail's not high enough. They should have filed that motion immediately after the case was held over to adult court if they wanted the bail increase.
So here you have a very similar situation where this young boy opts, for whatever reason, decides to end the life of this man who's just selling fruit. And you have a judge who, in this case, again, who made the decision that, okay, well, not only are we going to post the bail at a very low amount, but we're going to allow him to go to school and just live his life. Again, let me ask you, for those of you who are watching this and look like me, you're black. If this was a situation where the judge was white, the person that committed the murder was white, and he's out going in school and all of that, how would you feel about that? But again, this is how things are done, and it happens all the time. Let's continue, because there's more stories I want to share with you. And before I continue, that last story that I just shared with you, that actually took place in 2024. Okay, so I just want to make sure I correct on that one. This story, however, just took place recently, April 14, 2025. Man accused of slashing the throats of a couple riding bikes in Daytona Beach back in court. It says there's a new push to protect a man accused of murdering a couple during bike week. Defense attorney for this individual was back in court Monday to talk about his mental health. Again, that word again. This guy that did this, he allegedly killed a 48-year-old Terry Altman and 55-year-old Brenda Altman in 2022. The married couple were riding their bikes and home when this guy comes out and stabs both of them to death. They're just riding their bikes. And he just comes out of nowhere and says, okay, I'm just going to end your life. Here's a story here. This was back last year. This is in Polk County, Florida. The man found guilty of killing a former Lakeland City commissioner and her husband has been sentenced to death. A jury on Tuesday returned an 11-1 verdict for Marcel Walden, who was found guilty last week for the 2020 murders of ex-commissioners, and they named the names there. And it says the couple were killed in their Lake Morton area home on November the 11th, 2020. She was 67 and the husband was 63. They said, according to authorities, both of the victims were stabbed with their bodies being found up in their upstairs bedroom. Here's a story. This took place last year as well. Man accused of fatally stabbing man in Colfax County rest area. An out-of-state man was arrested after fatally stabbing after a fatal stabbing in a northern New Mexico rest area Monday morning. Dorian Ray, 21, is being charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery, possession of a stolen vehicle, and unlawful taking of a motor vehicle. According to San Miguel County Magistrate Court criminal complaint, Ray is also being charged with aggravated assault upon a peace officer with a deadly weapon, aggravated fleeing an enforcement officer, criminal damage over $1,000, and reckless driving. Okay, so here's one that actually took place just recently out here in Arizona. This story here: husband Jacob Couch nearly decapitated in front of the horrified wife during maniac's hatchet attack at Tucson bus stop. And a father too was nearly decapitated in front of his wife and left in critical condition by a hatchet wielding menace as the couple were in the middle of a cross-country trip home 1 year after their son's death. Jacob Couch, 32, was sitting on a bus stop bench with his wife, Kristen, in Tucson, Arizona, when 25-year-old Daniel Michael confronted the pair on April the 5th. Michael was allegedly carrying a hatchet through Tucson's downtown area and began yelling at the couple, citing court records. Seeing your husband get almost decapitated and being the only one to help is like, it's hard, Kristen Couch told the outlet. And she says she recalled telling the stranger they were just leaving as her husband bent down to grab their bags when Michael launched his horrific attack. And this is the guy that did it. The guy, this is a family that's just, they're trying to get home. They're just sitting around, and here you go. You got somebody coming around and just decide I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to chop his head off. So if you made it this far, then you need to buckle up, because we got plenty more stories where that comes from. But I want to be very clear. If you go back to the video that I did recently, I actually highlighted a bunch of stories that feature black folks that were being attacked, shot at by other black folks. And all I did was just simply go to GoFundMe page, just do a search for Stray Bullet. That's all you got to do. And you're going to find story after story after story after story after story of black individuals who are literally pleading with the community for help. And they may have a goal for a couple $1,000. Maybe they just need a few $100s for medical care. Nobody's doing the doggone thing for them. However, when somebody does something that's clearly they crossed the line, clearly there was it's just way off. All of a sudden now people just feel like we got to support this. And so if you're not seeing the discrepancy in that, then that means you're part of the problem. I mean, that's the only thing that's really all I can say here. If you can't focus on taking care of people who look like you, who were simply bystanders. There was one story in particular where a father, these are all black folks, there's a father, he's driving home with his children in a car, and all of a sudden a stray bullet comes, strikes him in the head. He's gone. He's out of here. There's another story where a parent took their children to McDonald's. The child is sitting at the table at McDonald's eating a Happy Meal, and guess what? Here comes a stray bullet, and I think the child is actually fighting for his life. I don't think the child actually died on that one, but I was finding story after story after story after story. I would just simply, in this first part, I was just taking the time and just going through, because I had people, wanting to bring up Kyle Rittenhouse and that particular story as if that's some kind of standard to measure this story that took place down in Texas with this stabbing. But I said that's a very lazy way to do it. Instead, you should compare it with similar stories, which I did do in this particular case here. So that's why I went through that. But in no way, shape, or form am I somehow saying that we should be concerned because white people are getting killed. No, we should be concerned because innocent people are getting killed. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, or whatever. But I was just simply wanting to do a comparative between that story that everybody's all on, hot and heavy on, versus similar stories that are out here. And why is it that we don't hear anything about it? So let's move on, because now in this section, we're going to focus on something that's very near and dear to me, and it should be important to you as well. And that is economics, business, infrastructure. What do I mean by that? What I'm talking about is a lot of times we've been hearing stories like in a place like, for example, in places like Oakland, California, where you have businesses that are moving into these areas where it's a majority of people who look like us. And these businesses are coming in and saying, hey, listen, we see an opportunity here where we can provide food, we can provide services, we can provide whatever it is. We can make some money off of it because we're a business. But at the same time, we're there. Our presence are there. And maybe by us being there, it can bring in more businesses. It can bring in more, other opportunities for the community. And so these businesses come to these communities, but guess what? They are faced with a lot of foolishness, and they end up having to close up shop very soon and very early. And again, and a lot of times, that's why I said when I hear people talk about Black Wall Street and we need to bring Black Wall Street back, my response to that, I've said this in a recent video, is that anytime I hear the words, and it's unfortunate, but anytime I hear the words Black Wall Street now, it makes my stomach turn. It's not because of the history of it. It's because how that history has been abused by the current culture. That's what I'm talking about. It's not the history. I think the history is spectacular and awesome, and it's something that we should build on. But if we cannot have that same mindset that these folks had when they built Black Wall Street, and by the way, that wasn't the only one. There was others as well. But if people can't have the same mindset that it took to build something like that, and with even if it's businesses that aren't yours or Black businesses, how far do you think that's going to go? So in this next segment here, I'm going to go through a long list of different clips of how, unfortunately, in many cases, how these businesses are treated by, you guessed it, other Black folks. And again, this does not speak of all Black people. Let me be very clear about this. All Black folks do not represent the actions that you see in these clips and these videos and stuff. That's not true at all. But I will say this, there are many who will defend it, and those people are part of the problem. But there are Black folks like me and others that are out here that are using our voices and saying, no, that does not represent a culture that I want to be a part of at all. So I want to be very clear with that. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. This in no way, shape, or form represents the actions or beliefs of all Black folks. But unfortunately, there is a segment of Black folks who embrace this and feel the need to defend it, especially given a certain set of circumstances like what we're seeing happening down in Texas. But let's get to these videos here, shall we? So the focus on this segment is going to be businesses. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at these video clips.
What went through y'all mind before y'all went up in Walmart, man?
I mean, it was fun. We went famous. That's all. We ain't want to hurt nobody or nothing. Just know.
Gotcha. I got me hit over 3 million views from what I seen. Yeah. Was it like planned to go in beforehand, or was like we were just there and y'all were like, let's go?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Hey, we just went in there, rode. We always ride to Baker, and we just wanted to do it that day. Hey.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cutthroat Cowboys, baby.
Yeah, they had some people saying like, it's no different than riding a dog, bringing the dog.
At all, yeah, that's my emotional support animal, basically. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so for this one, we're not going to play the whole clip. This was taken back in 2015, and this is a woman who's given testimony because of the very poor treatment of someone in a retirement home, or a home where they take care of elderly people. And I want you to take a listen to the excuses and how she's trying to explain herself. But at the same time, I want you to kind of imagine, what if your elderly friends and family were under this person's care? So let's take a listen to this.
From the terrace. I just happened to be at the desk and I picked it up. She said, we got a cold. I just said, be right there, hung up the phone, ran out the door, across the courtyard through the east wing, and the elevator was there, and I went downstairs and they told me she was in 326. I'm sorry, not 326, 3 something. And I went down there and they had the door open. They was doing the code. I took over. I said, you need to go call, so she could go call 911. And I started calling, and the other lady was back doing the rest with the bag.
All right. Tell me what you saw when you came into the room.
Lois that's the nurse, was doing compressions, and the aide was doing the bagging.
And the nurse was doing what?
Chest compressions.
Chest compressions. From the time you came in, you took over doing chest compressions from Miss Lois, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you continuously gave chest compressions until Miss Lois came back?
Yes.
At which time you relieved the nurse's aide named Miss Mabel?
Yes.
And you guys continued giving CPR until the EMTs took over?
Yes.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that once you start CPR, you shouldn't stop. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, you're trying to save a person's life. Once you start it, unless a doctor says stop, you have to continue. That's always been the rule. I'm the queen of residents' rights.
All right. All right. Did you hear what he just said?
Yes.
Help me, can't breathe. Would you agree it appears as though he's gasping for air at this time?
It looks like it.
Well, you're a nurse. You know when someone's gasping for air, correct?
Yes.
All right. If you saw this when you walked in the room, would you agree that it appears as though he's gasping for air?
I would.
Is that an emergency situation, ma'am?
Yep. Yes.
And according to my notes, the call light was initially hit at 4:34:35. All right. So I would like for you to assume for me that the call light was initiated at 4:34:35 and she walked into the room at 4:42:18. Is that an acceptable period of time for someone to answer a call light?
No.
Does he still appear to be in distress?
Yes.
Does it look like his heart respirations are elevated? Or that his respirations are elevated?
Not so much elevated, but labored.
Maybe. All right.
So I'll spare you most of the video. Like I said, the video is over 8 minutes long. But this woman, once she's confronted with actually the treatment that was given to this elderly person, I mean, she's just kind of like, yeah, and you know, it's nothing. But I want you, don't look at this through the lens of race per se. Don't just look at this. Look at this as what if that was you? What if you were in that position? If your loved one was in that position, how would you feel if they were getting that kind of treatment? And the sad thing is that in a lot of these nursing homes across the country, a lot of our elderly are getting this type of treatment. And it's just true. It's unfortunate, but it's an unfortunate reality. And this is why we encourage people all the time. If you have relatives in these nursing homes, I don't care how nice it looks, you need to be checking on them all the time because, again, you know, people will be people. But in this particular case here, I want you to, for this particular moment right here on that particular story, how would you feel about that? If forget race for a moment, just think about that for a second. How would you feel? In the meantime, let's move on to some of our other videos that we have.
I'm trying to see what my food is. I'm trying to track my food. Stop. I'm trying to track my food. Oh. Oh. I know. Oh, where Ronnie at?
You ever heard of what they call it? Columbus. Columbus. Columbus, no. Columbus. You never heard of Columbus, Georgia? Columbus, Georgia? No. Oh, okay. You gonna learn about it if you don't get to this beach.
Y'all folk wrong as a motherfucker, man. These folk ramshacking that hoe. Thick ass, stealing this shit. No, that shit ain't yours. Look at that shit. Them folks ass crazy. Look at his ass stealing. Them folks ass stealing.
Get your kids. Get your children. Get your children. Get your children. Get your children.
Try him if you want.
You better get up.
Try him if you want.
Back. You better back it up. You better back it. Back it up. You better. You better back.
No, you can walk away and I'll get your fucking stuff. Get my stuff.
Yes. Get my stuff.
Hey, get out. Relax.
Bitch, get out.
Oh, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
No, what's wrong with you? Get my stuff.
Call police.
No. Get my stuff. Give me my bag.
Call the police. Call the police. Call the police. Somebody's on the phone with the police, right?
Yeah, I'm on the phone with the
What's that?
What that chunk all the shit?
Oh, come on, I bet you I'll whoop your ass with this bitch. No, you won't. Oh, I bet you I'll.
He said no.
I bet you I'll. Talk to me. Talk to me.
No, move. You look up in the camera talking about this.
If you ask her to do or to stop talking,
You put a hand in the camera right now. Ooh! Oh!
Your kids say they hungry in the store, gotta feed them. You gotta stop and you gotta feed them. Cause one thing about me, when I'm hungry,
He gonna make sure you eat.
you gotta eat. Ain't that right? So when y'all hear y'all kids crying, just stop, take a break, and get them a snack. It's the only way to get them to shut up. That's it. It's simple.
Y'all see they quiet as a bee.
Hey, quiet. It's okay to take a break, y'all.
Good, Batman, he happy.
It's okay. It's better than listen to y'all kids cry.
I might swerve in that corner.
It's crazy.
Straight bulletproof glass through the whole thing, man. I mean, you can't even breathe on these people. Look how sealed this is. This is a professional seal. Like, you can't even talk to these people barely. Appreciate you, man. Getting up every day and seeing something like this, bro, that do something to your mental up here. It tell you, like, this how you feed animals in a zoo, gang. Like, that's pretty much what it's telling your mentality. Like, I did say I don't trust you. You feel what I'm saying? At what point do we be like, we tired of getting treated like animals, tired of getting treated like this? Like, bro, like, you telling me I can't even hand you my money, gang?
Y'all can't be that goddamn dumb.
You can't be that dumb.
Bro, I just want my friend. What the fuck? Fuck this bitch. Fuck, bring the knife and shit. Fuck. Fuck. Go me fucked up. Go me fucked up. Get the fuck out of my face. This is a bunch of bitches. To be honest, what is nigga saying? What the fuck? Nigga trying to fake drag. You need fresh fries, bro. Nigga want to fight like that so bad.
Holy fuck.
Relax. Relax.
Ooh, he got his face. He got his face. He got my head. Yeah. Ooh, he's choking him. He's choking him against the bar. He's choking him. I got him. I got him. Damn. Oh! Oh my God. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. Don't do it, man. Oh my God. He's gonna press charge on you, man. I don't leave. Go, Debo. He's gonna press charge on you. Oh! Oh, shit, Debo. Debo. Oh, yeah. Hey, man, leave that man alone. Debo, don't leave, man.
some goons, huh? I need to see y'all goons out here. What the fuck? Oh, y'all wild. This is so crazy.
You wanted it? You wanted it? You wanted it, bitch? You wanted it, bitch? Oh!
This Target here on Flatbush Avenue. It is actually just down the street from the McDonald's that made news last month when they started banning anyone from their restaurant under the age of 20 unless they were accompanied by an older adult. Now Target is letting it be known that if you are under the age of 18, you are banned from the store unless you are there with an adult. And all of this is due to the tremendous disruptions due to shoppers. Now, this Target, like many of their locations, is a popular spot for residents, but when school lets out, shoppers tell us it becomes a wild and uncomfortable scene with screaming, shouting matches, and even physical fights. Signs are now posted in the windows of the Target on Flatbush Avenue at Avenue H that say all guests under the age of 18 must be accompanied by an adult. We spoke with shoppers who had mixed reactions, but mostly positive reactions. Here's what they told us.
If the kids are running around acting crazy, then they shouldn't be in there, because there's plenty of times when I'm here during the daytime and after school hours and they're just running around crazy.
I don't think it's necessarily like making it safer.
I don't know. Some of the young kids can be trouble. They make trouble over here, they make trouble over there. The school kids, you know, it's their store. I can't tell them what to do.
Now, some of the residents told us that they believe that this new policy will also help reduce the shoplifting problem, which they say has been a rampant and persistent issue here. Now, we reached out to Target's parent company and the corporate PR, but did not get a response.
Oh, shit, you wildin', guys. Oh, shit, you are wildin'. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit! Y'all wildin'! Y'all wildin'! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Oh, shit!
Really, what's on it?
Oh my God!
Now, I know that was a lot, wasn't it? But trust me, there are many, 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 many more video clips that I could have easily played for you, but I definitely want to play quite a bit here so that you can really get the general idea. And I will say it again, as I said earlier before we started rolling these clips, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that this is representative of all black people and all people identify as black. I am not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that within this culture that we call black culture, it permits this kind of activity. It permits this kind of behavior. In fact, it will defend it. And we're going to get into in a moment here, the difference between when we're talking black culture versus black history. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a moment here. But as you can clearly see here, that this is something that happens all the time. And quite honestly, I think there's nobody here that's watching this video that you're surprised. We're not surprised at all. This happens all the time, but we don't say anything because in the cultural mindset, it's normal. This is normal behavior. We just kind of turn a blind eye to it and look somewhere else. But then when we hear that, oh, there was a white cop involved, oh, there was some white people involved, then all of a sudden, now we get involved. Now all of a sudden it's important. Now all of a sudden we got to raise up millions of dollars. Now all of a sudden we got to become a Voltron and just come together piece by piece by piece from all walks of life. And we're going to do this, and we're going to represent this young man who's just, all he was doing was trying to study and, studying for an exam so he can get in a good school and all of that. And he's a good father and he's a good community leader and all this other stuff. But we ignore the other stuff that's having an adverse effect on other black folks. The reason why I did that section, this last section you saw, the impact that this is having economically amongst in these communities where you have a majority of black folks that live there. You think if I was a business, let's say if I was a multi-billion-dollar business, do you think I would want to put resources in that community? No, I don't. Because here's the rundown. Stores like Walmart and others, I've heard a lot of times people will talk about, I go into Target, I go into Walmart, and all the black stuff, all the hair supply stuff, they got it on lock. That's racism. No, that's called safety. That's called protecting your assets. That's what it's called, because that tells you loud and clear who's stealing black products. It ain't white people. It ain't Gertrude that lives on Mulberry Road. She don't want a Jerry curl kit. Okay. She ain't trying to get that. She ain't trying to get the other stuff that, black hair products. It's black folks that are getting this stuff. And it's also black folks who are stealing it. So if you're stealing it, you got to lock that. You got to put that stuff under lock. That has an adverse effect on everybody else who's literally trying to move upward and forward, when it comes to trying to sell their stuff. Remember, we just talked about these black owned businesses that had an opportunity in Target to sell their stuff. And you imagine now your stuff is on top of the other stuff that they had to deal with, the DEI stuff and all of that. On top of that, you got to put your stuff on lock because you got to worry about the people that you're trying to sell to, that they're going to steal it. So they got to put a lock on it. Now, this video that I'm about to play for you is short, is under 4 minutes. His name is Roland Fryer. He is a PhD, and he is actually a liberal. And I want you to hear his story, because what he did was he's a Harvard tenured professor, very respected in the educational field. And basically, there was, I think this was the Floyd stuff that was going on, with all the protests. And so he wanted to do a study on a national study to find out police brutality. He wanted to find out, because a lot of times when you're on social media, you'll hear people, as soon as the police brutality argument comes up, the typical route most people take is they'll go to the FBI data banks or whatever, and they'll copy and paste the numbers and put it up there and say, see, if you look at it, it's actually white people that are more, and they're reading the data wrong. So you have to go to an expert that knows how to break this stuff down. And this guy is an expert. And so he went in, and I want you to hear what he's saying. He went in with the expectation that, yeah, of course, there is some real bias against black folks when it comes to police brutality and all that. And he is going to shed some light on it, because there is. But he also discovered something else. And I want you to listen to this interview, and then we'll get back, because there's a couple more things I want to add to this interview. Check this out. I want you to listen to what he has to say on this.
bit about your background for, some folks who don't know. The study that you did, this specific study in 2016 that, we played a clip for earlier, when you're going through this process with this study, were you yourself expecting those numbers? Or were you yourself surprised as hell when you saw it? And then how did that change your perception and opinion of things?
No one was more surprised than me, right? I'm not proud of it, but I don't really like the police that much, right? If I'm going to the airport after this, if they pull me over, I'm gonna be nervous, man. I think a lot of us would be. So I figured this was gonna be the easiest thing in the world, right? People were out protesting and stuff like that after Michael Brown. But, flying to St. Louis and locking arms was just not my thing. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. It's just not my thing. So I thought, here's what I'll do to help. I will figure out empirically what's really going on because we'd only seen a few videos at that point. And I remember going to a colleague of mine and saying, here, I'm going to study the police, and here's an idea. And what he quickly told me was, you don't understand anything about the police. So how are you going to figure out what's going on with race and policing in America? So I embedded myself in police departments, and we can talk about that if you want at some point. But I was extremely surprised. I was sure that there was going to be bias in police shootings. As the clip said, when I got the results back, I hired new research assistants to do it over again, just to make sure. But once you have the results, once you have what you think is the truth, given your data, there's no other choice but to go out with it and try to educate people on what the data actually says.
And what is the data? If you can just actually give us the data, what was in the data?
What we found was that on lower level uses of force, so when it comes to pushing someone up against a car, pulling a gun, putting handcuffs on them but not arresting them, things like that, there were large racial differences in police use of force. So black civilians are 50% more likely to have force used on them in any given interaction. Even when the police say they're perfectly compliant and they're not arrested and there's no contraband, et cetera, they're still more than 20% more likely than white civilians to have force used on them. But when it came to lethal use of force, shootings, we found absolutely no racial bias in that in any way, shape, or form. And our data, I believe, is a lot better than what has been discussed in the popular press because they're looking at kind of statistical snapshots. They're saying, well, the fraction of black people who are shot by the police is 50%, and they're only 13% of the population, ergo it must be discrimination. Sorry, I don't know if they forgot Statistics 101. That's not how it works. Right? What we did was say, look, here is two people are in a situation with police. Their behavior is the same. The other conditions on the ground are the same. The police decides to shoot one and not the other. Is race a factor? In other words, accounting for everything else about that situation, does race predict whether or not a police officer will pull the trigger? And the answer emphatically is no.
So if you heard what he just said, no. When it comes to, when interactions, yes, he said there is a much higher rate of, aggression by the police. He says that is true. They have found a racial difference in that. He said, however, when it comes to the use of lethal force, he said absolutely not. Now, a little bit more about his story, Roland Fryer, is that, as you just heard, when they did the study, again, he's a liberal. This is not a conservative. This is a liberal who believes that, like a lot of other black folks believe when it comes to police brutality and all of that stuff. He said, that's what I believe going in. But when he actually took the time, he literally created an entire team to look through this, to look through the actual data. They spent a great deal of time looking at this. This is like a fully funded project that he did. They did the project. The results, when they came back, he was like, oh, no, this is totally wrong. This is not what I'm seeing here. So he actually got rid of that team and then got another team. He said, I'm going to get all new people and I'm going to do this from again. He did it again. He came up with the same results. And then when he came up with the same results, he presented to his colleagues. All of his colleagues were saying, okay, bro, you need to keep that on the low. You need to keep that on the low. Don't speak on that because it's messing up a narrative. But he was like, no, I'm not. This is the results. This is what I'm paid to do. And so he published the data. He published his findings. And guess who it was that basically pushed back against him, literally was trying to get him fired, getting him completely removed off of campus. It was a woman by the name of Claudine Gay. Now, Claudine Gay, she was like the chancellor, you remember at one time, or the president of Harvard University. Well, you know, who later on, they gave her the boot because she was talking about Jews, or she didn't talk about Jews. She wasn't handling the situation on campus where you had this pro-Palestinian stuff going on. So basically, you know, she wasn't standing up for Jews the way they wanted her to stand up for. So she got the boot ultimately, you know, on an unrelated thing. But my point is, here you had a black woman that basically, she didn't like the results and didn't like it so much. She was trying to get rid of this dude off of campus. Thankfully, I think he still teaches. He's still a PhD, you know, on Harvard's campus and has his classes and all that other stuff. But they really went in on him to try to derail him of these findings. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because of the fact, given the information, given the clips, given the news clips that I've showed you, you know, in this video here, I think we have a little bit more context of what's really going on here. It is not police brutality at all. Police brutality, it does happen, right? But not at the level or the scale that a lot of people try to make it out to be. What I would argue with you is this: police are not the issue when it comes to Black America. When we say Black America, I use that very loosely because, again, you know, I'm gonna explain in a moment why I do. But for now, let's just say Black America. Black America's number one problem is not white people. Black America's number one problem isn't racism. Black America's number one problem is other black people. In fact, I will go on to tell you this: what we call Black culture is a murderous, dangerous death culture. Let me say that again. What we call Black culture is a murderous, dangerous death culture. Let me explain. So when I say that, this is what I'm saying. You have a difference between history and culture. When we talk about Black history, Black history is something that is to be treasured. It is to be protected. There are a lot of great lessons that we can learn. There are things that we can build upon that. And as we are building on that, you become better, right? You become better than your ancestors. But you build on those foundations, right? That's what normal cultures do, is that you build on the positive, on the foundation, so that you become a better, more conscious, whatever culture, right? So that's normally what normal cultures do. However, when we're talking about Black culture, everything that I just showed you in these videos today, those actions are contrary to what we see in Black history, right? From, you know, the mindset of ingenuity and creating things pretty much out of nothing, you know, self-governance, you know, growing your own food and your crops and all of that, protecting one another and, you know, valuing the men and valuing our women, valuing our children and, you know, and protecting their stuff, you know, and investing in the goodness of the people, right? These are all good values that had its own culture, and it built on one. It was like one on top of another, on top of another, right? But the culture we see today counter that. For example, when we look at, I don't know, let's look at, for example, how women dress, right? Now, I know some Black women will hear this and get mad. I don't care. I literally do not care. I'm not that person that gonna shriek back on this. When we look in Black history, we will see that it was very paramount and important for the way Black women will present themselves, that you present yourself very classy, you know, you're not showing off everything and all that other stuff. And I would say the same thing about Black men as well. If you look at some of these old pictures of Black men and Black women together going to party or, you know, going to an event or whatever, they always put on their best. You didn't see their breasts hanging all out. You didn't see pants hanging down. You didn't see all of that. But today, what we call black culture, that is part of the culture. And so, and to a certain extent, we will say it's hip hop culture. Now, hip hop, as we know it today, isn't something that we own. We do not own hip hop. That's why these recent debates that have been going on social media, as far as who owns hip hop or who controls it or whatever. Well, let me answer that for you. You don't. You don't control it. You don't own it. Now, you could take credit for coming up with it, but you don't own it. What black folks who were integral to the development of that, what they did was handed it over to Jewish people. That's what they did. So you don't own it. So all of these crazy artists that you see out here with these crazy lyrics and all of that, that's not coming from what we call so-called black people. Not all of us, because we don't condone that, right? Now, but there are black folks who do embrace that kind of stuff. And so this is why we're saying there must be a separation. And when I say separation, what I'm saying is this, and this is going to challenge many of you. You have to separate yourself from black culture. Let me say that again. You are going to have to separate yourself from black culture, because what we call black culture is not something that is compatible with our history and the things that we built in our history. It's not compatible with that. You'll find many aspects of what we call black culture that's contrary to it. So we can't claim that as our own. You got too many black folks out here that want to claim all of this stuff as part of black culture. Well, if you want to claim the looking the other way of this kind of behavior and not dealing with it, well, that's not my upbringing. My upbringing is you deal with it head on. You're supposed to deal with this, and you're supposed to be able to talk about this stuff, but also provide solutions. But what we see more often than not is nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about the importance of dealing with mental illness and mental health and all of that. I'm not saying everybody's got to go to a shrink or anything like that. It's not even about that. It starts with diet. It starts with nutrition. It starts with your family structure and what your family structure. These are very important conversations that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to deal with. They don't. But someone who's rooted into the things in your history, when you look at the goodness, the things that are what was accomplished in our history, those people who really valued those things, that's what you got to build on that. And those people had no problem in calling a spade or calling it out for what it is and saying, young man, you need to do this, or young lady, you need to do that. But in black culture, if you do that, you might get shot. That's not, and if I can't correct somebody and tell them, hey, listen, what you're doing is very destructive because I'm in fear of my life, why the hell would I want to be why would I want to be associated with that? Why would I want to be associated with that? Why would I want to identify with that? Why would I want to protect something like that? Do you see what I'm saying? So the purpose of this whole thing is this. It's to get you to take a hard look at the reality of what's really going on out here, that many black podcasters, vodcasters, video, whatever you want to call them, they will not even dare to show any of these videos. You know why? Because it's about clicks and it's about keeping people comfortable. I am not about either. I'm not about either at all. And I will be the first to tell you, I get followers lost every day, but I don't care because that's not my purpose here. See, my purpose for me, it's not rooted in this, what you see here. It's part of it. My color, I love my color. I would never trade this, right? But that's not the real me. The real me is deeper than that. I can speak to people that look like me, and I can speak to people who don't look like me. You understand what I'm saying? There's not a such thing as black truth versus white truth. There's truth and there's lie. That's all there is to it. And I'm about truth, and you should be about truth as well. So that's what we wanted to talk about here. Let me see what else. So the last point I want to raise is stop looking for a label. The real you is a lot deeper and a lot broader than you just centering on this and looking at life and analyzing life through this. That's what this is about. So for those of you who feel like you have to protect a death culture, which it really is, then you can have it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I love my history, but I will not at all have anything to do with the death culture. I would not have anything to do with it at all. And for some people, they will hear this and think that that means I need to be white. What that says is that you are so binary in your mind, you cannot even think beyond this construct that we live in. But you need to be able to think a lot deeper, because you're a lot more than that. And like I said again, and I'll say it again, this is my third time saying this, the actions that we saw in this video that you're watching, they do not represent the whole. There are many people who look like me that are out here that do not condone that at all. And they do make it very clear, hey, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. But we need to start using our voice, because it's easy to hide in the suburbs, right? It's easy to hide in the suburbs. I don't want nothing to do. But you're going to have to start using your voice and start making it plain. But where does that begin? It begins in your home. Because if your home is shot and is disorder, how effective you think your message is going to be when you're speaking to these folks out here? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it begins in the home. It doesn't begin in church. It doesn't begin in religion. It doesn't begin in that at all. Let me say that again. It does not begin in religion. As you saw in that video that I played earlier at the beginning of this video, here, this guy, he was speaking, he did everything but speaking in tongues. And while he's doing that, he's stealing a police car and hitting on a police officer. So it does not start with there. There was somewhere down the line, this guy was broken. What it was, I don't know. But I will tell you this, is that we got to stop making excuses. We got to stop hiding this thing to demons and saying it's the demons that are doing it. We got to stop saying that it's the Freemasons. We got to stop saying it's the white people that are doing it. We got to stop saying it's the Jewish people that are doing it. We got to start looking at this stuff and saying, listen, we got to deal with this head on or cut it off, period. There's a lot of people at the end of the day, they are not going to make it. And I have had to settle with that. It's a very hard thing, but reality, a lot of these people that we see out here, not only that are doing these actions, but are defending it. My prediction is a lot of these people will not be here too much longer. They won't. Because if you're defending a death culture, you're going to die very soon. And it's not going to be pretty. But this is the reality. It's sad to say that, but it's true. Stop seeing yourself as merely a black person and see yourself more than that. Separate yourself from a culture that defends this kind of behavior. And you can do that. But like I said, it starts at home. It starts there. That's where the lessons begin, in your house. How you think, how you communicate. We need real elders in this hour. We don't need people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are out here twerking. That's not cute. It's not funny. And it doesn't do a doggone thing to elevate these young people. You need to stop it. So that's the whole point of this video here. I hope you really got something out of this. And, you know, if it got you mad and got you heated, I hope it got you heated for the right things. And hopefully they will get you heated enough to make some change. If you want to get mad at me, so be it. You want to unsubscribe? Don't care. But the truth is always going to be told on this platform. And we're going to continue to do it because why? That's all we have at this point. I don't need a politician. I don't need another church. I'm done with all of that. Now it's about truth, and it should be about truth for you too. Thank you so much for tuning in. You take care, and I'll see you again soon.